Doctor?
What are you doing? I won't let you take her. This is our future. Think of all the lives we'll save.
Jesus Christ, Joel. What do you do?
I saved her.
The Last of Us, like so many other tales of the post-apocalypse such as The Walking Dead, is a story painted in shades of grey. Across the course of both games, virtually all of the characters do bad or questionable things in the name of survival or in service to what they believe is the greater good. Despite this, and especially in reaction to how explicitly this moral ambiguity gave us two opposing views on the same story in the second game, there's an ongoing discourse in the fandom about whether Joel Miller is good or bad. This takes two forms. On the one side, those who disliked Part 2, or objected to Abby's part in it after the murder of Joel, is keen to paint Joel as an unambiguous hero, and both Abby and those Joel killed at the end of Part 1 as villains. On the other, almost in reaction to this, are those who argue that Joel's actions in fact make him the villain of the piece, and deserving of condemnation. For me, both sides of this discourse are wrong-headed, if understandable in their own way. Painting Joel as a straightforward hero is a reaction to his loss, lashing out at those who took a beloved character from us and in doing so lionising him in the way that those whose loved ones have died in real life might, making them out to be an angel who did no wrong. But Joel isn't a real person who has died, he's a work of fiction, and the fiction from which he became so beloved loses most of its power and meaning if his role is as straightforward as Nathan Drake in Uncharted or Chris Redfield in Resident Evil. If he's just a hero fighting zombies and bad people, then everything worthwhile The Last of Us has to say about loss, survival and the human condition in the landscape of its story is washed away. A Joel Miller as unambiguously heroic as a character from a pulp novel wouldn't have left his mark on video game storytelling in the same way, and would be as forgettable as any number of generic, gruff male video game protagonists from the early 2010s. Likewise, writing Joel off as a villain is the reaction to the hate of some in the former camp, those who choose not just to lionise their hero but pour vitriol and spite over Part 2, popping up at every mention of the game to tell those who never ask that it's unworthy trash with a terrible story. Saying Joel is a bad guy is an easy retort to media illiterate haters who simply cannot let others enjoy the second game and whose justification ranges from culture war bigotry to outlandish conspiracy theories. But just as Joel isn't a straightforward hero, he's not a villain either. As convenient a comeback as it might be to trolls and haters, it's just as much an oversimplification of the case as claiming him for a hero, especially in defense of a story, The Last of Us Part 2, which tears down the notion that the world is made of heroes and villains rather than just broken people making hard choices in a harder world. At the start of the story, 20 years after the outbreak, Joel has hardened himself against the world. He's had to do some pretty awful things to survive, including acts that drove him and his brother Tommy apart, and as a smuggler he's still capable of bringing that side out when necessary. Most crucially, he has nothing to put his faith in. He's lost his daughter, driven away his brother, and isn't a believer in the Firefly's cause. Though he can see what's wrong with the military and the way things are, his imperative is to find ways to work it to his benefit rather than to try and change things, as he doesn't believe that such a thing is possible. From the time he first agrees to smuggle Ellie out of Boston to the time they reach Salt Lake City, she breaks through his hardened shell and earns his love and affection. He not only comes to care for her, but to share her enthusiasm to try and make a difference in the world. But whilst Ellie is a child, with both survivor's guilt and a level of innocence to believe things can be so easily changed, Joel is an adult. He's taken lives, but he knows their importance, and while he takes her to Salt Lake City to try and do right by her, he also grows to fear what it might actually mean for her and her well-being.
Can't be any worse out there. Can it?
What on earth do the Fireflies want with you?
Hey, let's pick it up.
We don't have to do this. You know that, right?
When they reach the Fireflies, his worst fears are confirmed. Despite the debate that's raged in the fandom over Joel's decision, most of the factors in that discourse simply don't matter. The morality of the Fireflies and Abby's father Jerry, the practicalities of engineering a vaccine for a fungal infection, and doing so on the first attempt with no second chances because the immune subject is dead, aren't part of his decision-making process. All that matters is that the Fireflies have somebody that he loves and, if he doesn't intervene, they will kill her. Those who paint Joel as a hero do so in part because they see the story of The Last of Us Part 2 as a condemnation of Joel's actions, and in turn those who label him a villain make the same judgment, calling his choice selfish, saying he doomed humanity, and so on. But Troy Baker recently spoke about how much more weight he gives Joel's decision now that he's a father himself, and that for Neil Druckmann it held that importance when he wrote it because he too is a father. That's part of the point.
And I have a son, and I don't know what I would look like if I lost him. But I do know that if I had the opportunity to save him, I would do anything. I would do anything to save him. So people have asked me, why would Joel do that when he could have saved the world? And my answer to them is always this: he did. He did save the world. It's just that the world was that girl, and that's it.
In such a situation, it's hard to imagine any parent who truly cares for the child making any decision other than the one that Joel did. I think that Joel did the right thing, and I don't think that the writer of the game, the same writer who killed him off in part 2, thinks otherwise. This doesn't change the fact that the world of The Last of Us is one where Joel couldn't escape the consequences of his actions. The decision he took was the only one that he could have taken under the circumstances, and it was a decision whose repercussions would one day catch up to him. Painting Joel as a straightforward hero washes away everything that made his character so important and undercuts the choices he made. Calling him a villain goes against the core of the second game's story and everything that followed from his death. Joel did bad things and good things, and he paid the price for the latter as much as the former. If you enjoyed this video, then give it a like and consider subscribing to keep up to date with all my content, like the video that's just popped up, which YouTube thinks you should watch next. Check out the links in the description to join my Patreon for as little as £1 per month, or donate to my GoFundMe and get your name in the credits of my videos, like those rolling up now, who I want to thank for supporting me and my content. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.